Welcome, everybody, to the House of Kayfabe. I'm Adam Harris here with my fellow residents, Stephen P. New. The other Steve Barker is here, and the only Derek Jones. That matters, and we're looking back at the year that was 2022. Hope you'll check us out here on the YouTube channel. We've got a video on the biggest news stories of the year of 2022. We've got a video remembering some of the folks we lost in the wrestling business in 2022. And right now, fellas, I'm really excited to this. Let's mark out. How about it? Nerd Mark's doing Mark shit. Yeah. Here we are. Our favorite matches of 2022. Man, I am excited about this. I went to 29 live events. I'm the kind of weirdo that counts that. And I think at least one of my favorite matches is going to be one that I saw live and in person. We all picked out a top three. We've got some honorable mentions. And then Derek Jones is going to tell us a few pay-per-views that everybody must watch from 2022. So like, subscribe, check us out here on the House of Kayfabe's YouTube channel. Where should we start? Stephen P. New, did you do your homework? You wanted to go first and say what your favorite match of 2022
I'll go first, and it dovetails with something else that we've been talking about. It may actually overlap with some of your alls, but I thought that Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins from WrestleMania was just an absolute clinic. You have the element of surprise. The Derek Jones predicted wrestling has more than one royal family.
It chills just thinking about it.
Man, and Cody Rhodes comes out, and then you get not a match that had any build up. You just get an absolute instant classic. And on our group chat, some of us that were watching ahead of others said, just wait. And then after we had all caught up on it, it was like, bam, that's an instant classic. That's one for the ages. That's an instant WrestleMania. It's HBK, Scott Hall, Razor Ramon. It's Bret Hart versus Stone Cold when Stone Cold bleeds out. It's Hogan versus Rock. I'm not being hyperbolic. I don't think when I put that match up there with some of the best that have ever been at WrestleMania.
Pretty much stole the show in a 2-night jam-packed lineup. I mean, WrestleMania I thought was great this year. We saw some other really amazing contests that went down. Derek, thoughts on Cody and Seth?
It was a fantastic match. And again, and every time we say it, just thinking about the music hit coming up out of the elevator, it literally gives chills to me.
The meaning,
because yes, and it's not because of being a huge Cody fan. It's not because of being a huge wrestling fan, but it's like you said, it's everything that all the emotion that it can give a wrestling fan, knowing the true story of what's happening and the shift that it possibly gave to the industry.
We've all been watching wrestling from about 20 years to probably 40 years or so between us all, and everybody loved this match. It was what we love wrestling for. Did this make your list, Steve Barker?
Yes, and I did not expect it to. Not only did I expect it to, I did not expect it to actually happen or for anyone to care. Because like I said on yesterday's episode, Cody Rhodes had destroyed his brand, in my opinion, with some of his just overly dramatic bullshit that he pulled in AEW towards the end during his early run in AEW. I think it was one of the best things on the program regularly. As God Emperor said, he always was able to keep the bullshit off of him during the early days of AEW. Exploding rings and Chris Jericho falling into fucking orange juice, right? But Cody Rhodes always came off legitimate, and I'm old enough to have seen his dad live, and was I've given that bionic elbow to my little brother, shout out Ben, who watches on many, many occasions, and it was just, and all my wrestling matches I'll talk about, I'll say the same thing. This is why we watch. We suffer through the Katie Vicks and the fucking Bobby Lashley cucking Miro to get to this. God, when wrestling, my wife just couldn't believe how enthralled I was at this match. It's everything that's good about this business is that fucking match.
Well, I agree with that too. And although I will say, like, I have to give a runner up to their match
Afterwards,
Hell in a Cell.
Hell in the Cell, when Cody was injured.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about everything you love about this business. Well, Cody showed us how much this business means to him, man. If you ask me, like, anybody that showed up to work with a torn pectoral muscle and then goes 30 minutes in Hell in the Cell, man. Like, I came away with a whole new respect. And I want to say, I think it's been said that Cody wants to be a sports entertainer in the purest form of the word, like the most perfect form of that. And I think it turns out that he can do that in WWE. Like, it wasn't working for me. Like, it was a stretch in AEW. I think it worked much better this time somehow in WWE. And I really can't wait to see what 2023 looks like for Cody Rhodes. And so I don't think you can have the second one without the buildup from WrestleMania, and it's perfect in a different way. But I think Cody Rhodes, paid his taxes to us wrestling fans when he stepped in the ring for that Hell in the Cell match.
And he very smartly left Brandy at the house.
Well,
let's be honest. That was a good move.
That's going to have to be another video, man. That's for another parallel universe where Brandy comes back. Let's talk about another match, man. And I think I'm going to go ahead and drop this one out there because it was the most fun I had watching a wrestling match live. I felt like a fan again. My expectations were low. It was Mano y Mano, Gunther versus Sheamus at Clash in the Castle. I'm getting chills again just thinking about it. It was so invigorating to see this match. Two meaty men slapping meat, as Big E would say, man. The big man match. Tons of great false finishes. And then I also think, it's said that the referee is a third man in a match, and the audience is the fourth man. And the audience showed up to be the fourth man in this match. It was thrilling to watch. What did you guys think about Clash in the Castle?
Go, Derek.
So that match, Gunther and Sheamus, is on my list. Parker says bring 3 matches. I think I've got a list of 7 here.
It's extra credit. Derek's getting extra credit again.
Hard to narrow it
Fucking
down
up
to
the
just
curve
3.
for the rest of us.
Yeah. But Gunther and Sheamus is on there. It is a top 5 match of the year for me. It was fantastic. And I'm usually not a big guy wrestling fan, but when your big guys are that athletic and they're that good at what they do, they can tell a story in the ring and out of the ring to draw that emotion from the crowd. And they're not just, throwing a couple punches and doing a big foot choke in the corner. Man, it works so good. And they are good at what they do.
Well, it's because, in my opinion, besides, of course, Dalton Castle, Gunther, Walter, he's going to always be Walter to me, is the best wrestler in the world right now. Now that CM Punk's gone, and hopefully he comes back eventually. But Gunther, here's how good Gunther is. Sheamus has been... you had that girlfriend that, like, you didn't really like all that much, but, like, you just always went back with her because she was kind of a habit. That's been Sheamus for like 5 years. Let's be fucking honest.
Maybe
longer.
10 years. I think it's been
10
just
years. Like, well, I've got her phone number. I know she'll call. She'll say yes. It's 3 a.m. That's what Sheamus
was one of the guys trying to get Roman over the first 4 or 5 times.
Yeah. Right. And Gunther is so wonderful at what he does. And it's proof that a lot of what the God Emperor Cornette says is these basic tenets of wrestling, when done correctly, work every time, because we have over 100 years or whatever, however long like a worked match has been. We have proof that it does, and Gunther does not bullshit. When you watch Gunther matches, it's very easy to suspend your disbelief because he's beating the fuck out of his opponent, and his opponent is beating the fuck. If Gunther was around 5 years ago, Sheamus would be Roman Reigns right now. You know what I mean? Like, Sheamus and Gunther's so good, he has elevated that, I think, a fair to Midland faction with the Brawling Brutes. He's elevated the whole fucking crew with what I think maybe is the greatest match of the year. We'll see what Uncle Dave Meltzer says. But it's everything that's good about wrestling.
Steve New, do you agree?
I absolutely agree. I loved this match. I'm a Sheamus fan. Even as easy as he is, according to Steve Barker, he's the sure thing. You're going to get a good match out of him. And whether with a mohawk or a regular haircut or whatever, they're going to have to repackage him to give him one last good run or something when the time is right. But you're going to get some good matches out of him because Sheamus, gave Drew McIntyre, Bobby Lashley, a bunch of other people good matches that year as well. There's a reason why guys like to wrestle Sheamus, particularly big men like Gunther. And, Gunther is young, but he's gotten himself in great shape.
Mm-hmm.
And, this like harkens back to the old days when you take some veteran like Sheamus and have him job to a newer guy like Gunther to get him over. And it was just fantastic. It was a great wrestling match.
The place that it was held cannot be shortchanged.
That's right.
Because
that's why I said that. Yeah, the fourth man in this match was
the fourth man. Because let's be honest, Gunther's working that Austrian early 21st century gimmick to tiptoe around the terms of service in YouTube. And England, they remember that shit. You know what I mean? They remember,
They still hate your ass.
Don't mention the war if you are a Faulty Towers fan. And that played into it. And man, Gunther just played it perfectly. God, I'm getting goosebumps. I'm probably going to go watch that match again after this.
Well, and 10 years ago when they were trying to get Roman over the first time, I remember thinking, well, this is one way to get me to like Roman. You just have him fight Sheamus.
Just beat the shit out of
Sheamus so much.
Right.
And if you'd asked me then, or if you'd asked me, 5 years ago, or if you'd asked me January 1st, will Sheamus be in your favorite matches of this year? Will he have a match you'll remember the rest of your life? I would have said, no friggin' way.
No way.
With who?
Derek, are you a Sheamus fan?
Yeah, I wanted to hear Derek's take on Sheamus, the long-term Sheamus era.
I'm not, honestly. The only time I've even somewhat kind of watched him a little bit's when he's partnering with Cesaro, because I like Cesaro.
Absolutely.
The bar was great,
but I'm not a Sheamus guy whatsoever.
First ballot Hall of Famer, I think, and part of it's going to be because of this match. All right, here's where it's going to get a little interesting, boys, because we've agreed pretty much unanimously on the first two. I personally wanted to choose a match that I saw in person to talk about, and that probably won't be on anything else that you guys saw, although you guys were there. Yes, yeah, you guys were there for one of the ones I want to talk about. But I want to hear what else you have. Steve Barker, let's go with you next. You got a third choice here? You want to get us started?
Man, I've got one and a honorable mention because I wanted to throw an AEW one in there, and I'm going to throw an AEW one in there. I am, but look,
you've made some resolutions.
I quit watching AEW after the fucking the guy with the butler came out to get fed to Wardlow. I was like, oh, if y'all don't work any harder than this is proof that when you give an industry subsidies that you have no reason to make a good fucking product. We can talk about that later on the Stephen P. New Political podcast. But look, we've seen Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar wrestle a lot. And then what was it? SummerSlam? Am I right? SummerSlam.
Yeah,
like,
Tractor came out.
Here's another one. It's a spectacle. It's what a house battle is. I think Roman Reigns has mastered as good as Stone Cold Steve Austin or The Rock or Hulk Hogan or any of those, the art of the WWE main event match.
Absolutely.
That fucking match was great. And we've seen it all from these two. What else were they going to fucking do? Throw the other one in a trash compactor? We've seen these two fucks do everything to each other. And man, Cowboy Brock Lesnar brought a goddamn tractor. Adam Harris, what was the brand of tractor, sir?
Was it a John Deere?
Wasn't it?
No, it wasn't a John Deere. It was red.
It was a Massey Ferguson. Yeah, it was Massey Ferguson. Yeah,
there you go.
My dad was turning in his grave. He was like, "Son, that won't do in Grassy Meadows." We were John Deere loyalists back in Grassy Meadows. But yeah, the tractor came out, and I admit I rolled my eyes. But man, it
Really?
was memorable. It was memorable when the tractor first. I'm like, come on here, what are we doing? But you're right, they hadn't been there before, and where else are they going to go? You were right. You said trash compactor. Well, closest thing is a tractor with a lift on it. Let's uproot the ring in front of God and everybody here at SummerSlam, man. I didn't see it coming. Derek, any thoughts on Steve's choice?
Coolest part about that match is Roman catching the microphone.
Oh, when he threw it, when he was standing on the
Brock
That
threw
could
it,
have gone
and-
very wrong. I
And
think,
Roman called
like-
it like, I'll have that.
that
yeah.
fucking bump that Roman took when he lifted the ring up I know it doesn't look like it, but that's one of the more dangerous things that we saw in 2022. That could have went really bad.
Absolutely.
But again, Stephen P. New talked on yesterday's episode. It was a match that made everybody look good. Brock still stayed strong. It
Totally.
took the whole fucking bloodline to bury him and all the outer ring furniture to fucking end this guy. And man, when Paul Heyman wanted to stop the match and he said, enough, this is my cash cow and
That's
you're going
right.
to ruin it for my family. Only Paul Heyman could do that.
Wonderful.
Everybody else, it would come off as fake and gimmicky and blah. But
Wonderful.
man, Paul Heyman's a goddamn genius, right?
Steve New, any thoughts on this?
No, nothing to add. Just it was everything that everybody has already said. Fantastic.
So what do you have next for us?
I have
Oh yeah.
the Briscoes versus FTR. We
Which
can go
one?
one of two ways about this. I liked the Death Before Dishonor match in July of 22. That was the second match. It was like the teams knew each other better. And it was a 2 out of 3 falls. I love 2 out of 3 falls tag matches. And I liked this one better than the double dog collar match on December 10. But man, I love both of these tag teams. And that smack talking that these guys did, I loved. It was like Freebirds Von Erichs or something for me, just all the shit talking leading up to the match on social media, that kind of stuff. So that's what I liked best was the build up. They'd already had one match. Then they start talking this smack again. And you just know that it's going to be brutal and hard hitting when they got together the second time. And I loved it. That's my next favorite.
I would say on the promo side, it's a little closer to the Midnights and the Four Horsemen. The best of the bests, that know they're the best of the best in this situation. You're right, Stephen P. This is like the perfect combination of promos plus work rate plus prestige. Best of an era too. This is almost like British Bulldogs versus Rock and Roll Express or something. I mean, this is like, for me, and I think probably you guys would agree, this is of that echelon. And Stephen P. New, one of the reasons I love you, we're all riding your coattails, but you are the one who mentioned tag team wrestling on this. And I just say that's one of the reasons I love you, because tag team wrestling, a lost art, I think. And I would hope one of my resolutions, I hope, is for tag team wrestling to have a comeback in 23 and to have that, have the halo back on that era of our sport. Derek Jones, anything that you want to say? Oh, go ahead, Steve P.
Goodness knows FTR, the Briscoes, I don't like the Young Bucks, but I think they're doing their part to try to revive tag team wrestling. I mean, you can even look, at tag teams in AEW like the Best Friends, the Acclaimed, certainly, and they're brand new, but
Definitely. The Guns.
I hope we re-enter a golden age of tag team wrestling, because as a guy who grew up watching the Rock and Roll, the Midnight, the Road Warriors, the Steiners, the British Bulldogs, the Hart Foundation. I mean, come on, I'd love to see it get back to where you've got great wrestlers who don't just peel off and become a single premature or something like that. it's like FTR, and you get literally years worth of mileage out of a great tag team.
And certainly in any feuds outside of the two major promotions, I mean, this has to be it if we're not going to include, if ROH is not a part of AEW. Derek, any thoughts on the Briscoes and FTR, and what is your third choice?
On my list, it just says FTR versus Briscoes because you could say 1, 2, or 3. I don't care which one you pick. They're all fantastic matches, but I didn't want to have that as my 1, 2, and 3 to pick from. So I just put FTR versus the Briscoes.
Perfect.
And to talk about tag team wrestling, 4 of my 7 matches are tag team matches.
I've got one for you too. I've got one for you.
What do you got, Barker?
My tag team match, and I don't remember what pay-per-view, but I know that the Human Wrestling Encyclopedia will remember. And I think that this team has lost a little steam because they were trying to split them up, because one of these guys is going to be obviously a singles stud in his future, but not just yet. But Street Profits versus the Usos. Yeah. When the crowd, if there was ever a time, and I know we always talk about like, let's, how great would it be if you change the finish in the middle of the match? If there was ever a time this year, and I know the Acclaimed had one too, but if there was ever a time, does anyone remember that pay-per-view?
I just wrote it down, and I did not write down what pay-per-view it was from, but I'm going to look it up here because I think it was the opening match of one of the pay-per-views, and I'm going to look it up here while you're talking.
Street Profits were as big over as any tag team that WWE has come up with. And I'm going to be a little controversial. The Usos aren't really big over as a team. Not like what the Street Profits were that night. That was phenomenal. Derek Jones, I know you saw it. Is it on your list?
Well, I think it was at SummerSlam. I think everybody's just forgetting about it because of the Rock or the Brock and Roman stuff, but I'm pretty sure it's SummerSlam.
It was. Well, they had probably 100 different matches this year, but I think that was the one that started the show, and it was a barn burner for sure.
Yeah. It's not on my list, but it probably could have made a top 10 list easily.
That was the one with Jeff Jarrett as the fucking.
Jeff Jarrett did something in that match that was fucking wonderful and needed to happen in the WWE, and I'm pretty sure Triple H had taken over by then. He told the Usos, he said, grab that rope. He told them, look, I'm Jeff Jarrett, motherfucker. This is my world.
This is Nashville.
This is Nashville. This is my town, and you are going to fucking follow the rules. And if you noticed, since then, WWE tag team matches, people have been grabbing the rope. John Cena did it yesterday or 2 days ago.
I would do it if SmackDown. I were WWE because AEW does not do it. So back to Derek Jones's other choice here. We took it right off course again, Derek. What do you got? Next match.
All right, so a very, very high mention match for me, and it's going to be kind of wild because it's a WWE match, and I absolutely loved the War Games match with Team WWE versus the Bloodline.
Wow.
And I loved it because of the enhancement of Sami Zayn.
Yep.
If you don't think 2022 wasn't the year of Sami Zayn, you was not watching professional wrestling for the right reasons. He is my standout superstar of the year.
For sure.
Hands down. He is the reason that the Usos are at the level they are right now. He is the reason that Roman is at that next level up that he is right now. And it's because he's getting eyes on the product. He's making it notable. He's making it chat worthy. He's trending every single day. He's
making us all break up while we're watching it. We're all laughing our ass off at Sami Zayn. He's working everybody in the ring. They're all trying not to pop. He's working everybody from the performers in the ring to the back row, man. He's working the entire auditorium.
Breaking everybody who's in the ring with it. They've got to go with what Sammy's doing to them, like Becky in the birthday cake that time. She just had to put her head down and laugh, in the mixed match. And I tell you, Cornette didn't like the El Generico character when they were in ROH together, right? Sami Zayn, in the tweet of the year, is like, what? Cornette puts Sami Zayn over, says he's the best worker of 2022, and it blew Sami Zayn away because
the tweet was, and I maybe I'm going to get this completely wrong, but it's something like, "Are we boys?" Question mark. It was something like that.
Right.
It was
right.
and you know what, man? Not to put the God Emperor over. He said that even back then, as much of a pain in the ass Kevin Steen and El Generico was, he always said they could work. And he was the one back then when I was watching Ring of Honor on Antenna and during my broke ass days. That was what's great about Ring of Honor, man. At fucking 2 a.m. on any Antenna channel it was going to be on. And back then, Jim Cornette was like, "Hey, man, can you stop with this gibberish and cut promos?" He was fucking right. He's still the genius of wrestling because he's been proven that the number one of the top 5 moments of this year has got to be Usi. We love it. We love a shoot. We love when the curtain is moved back. And man, Roman worked that so beautifully. He was like, "You're not going to hide your face. Come here.
Yep.
Come here. We're going to have a real
enjoy
moment."
this with me. Yeah.
It was wonderful, dude.
Could be moment of the year. Yeah, for sure. Especially outside of like any one match or promo or whatever, just like a moment. And you're right. I can't believe we're 25 minutes into this and we're just now talking about Sami Zayn. But you're right, Derek. That match did a lot of heavy lifting, advancing a very long-term story. And had us all guessing too, we kind of all thought Sammy was going to end up on the inside, but then again, him and KO have had this connection that's still, again, as we look into 2023, man, there's going to be some more magic between Sammy and KO. All right. Who hasn't done a third match yet? Steve, did you?
I'll go next. MJF versus Punk, February.
Strap match.
No, was that the one with the? Yeah, it ended with
the dog collar match.
The dog collar match. Yes.
Yeah. And I just love both those guys so much. That had to happen. It was. Correct me if I'm wrong, Derek. It was Punk's first loss in AEW. Correct.
Correct.
And there's a way in wrestling that younger stars get over. And it wasn't even like Punk's time to put him over necessarily. And I think most other people of Punk's stature, having come back just 5 months before, might not have done that. But I think he must have seen something in MJF that everybody else that's met him and has seen him, saw in him. And I think it was the ability to elevate Max was an ability to create another absolute superstar for the company. I loved that match. That was probably my favorite match of the year.
MJF put out, talk about a year, like he definitely had a good year. And one of the reasons is, and he put this out there, was like he only wrestled 7 matches.
Is that all he wrestled last year?
Yes.
Come on. And yet most talked about, most beloved, most hated. Like you've got an argument, a wrestler of the year. You can't, there's no accolade he doesn't qualify for.
7 matches.
And they all probably could have been a match of the year candidate when we go back. If we were to go back and watch them, wouldn't that be a fun thing?
He did have that big hiatus after he told off Tony.
That's right.
And you know what? That could have been
to a movie theater near you soon when this movie comes out.
That could have been promo of the year until the brawl out. We all were. How many weeks after that were you calling your friends you fucking marks? Like I said that so much after that. Dude.
We were doing that before he said that at the House of Kayfabe.
It's true. It juxtaposes how great CM Punk is and how shitty Jericho is. I'm going to take a shot at my boy who's on my Mount Rushmore. Look what MJF did with Jericho, losing at the end and doing a fucking Broadway dance number. And CM Punk brought him in and had a good old fashioned NWA gritty, it should have been badly lit, old school bloodbath, and it made sense for once. AEW had a gimmicky match that made sense. That war of words had to have this match. We had a blood feud here.
And it ended in a very NWA way as well with that diamond ring, you know.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, great point. Yeah, you're great. Yeah, that's true. And now with CM Punk out, it's kind of like, oh wow, you know, who knows if and when we'll get another MJF CM Punk match? You know,
when he signs with WWE.
We didn't know. We didn't know what we had till it was gone. Really. All right. So we've talked a lot about our great favorite matches. This has been so fun. Thank you guys for watching along. We're going to wrap it up here in just one moment. I want to make sure you go back and watch our favorite. Our tribute to our lost brethren of the wrestling world and our take on the top 3 stories of the year of 2022. We're going to wrap up our favorite matches. I wanted to have a match that was one that I saw in person as a favorite match of the year. I went to 29 wrestling shows live this year, including 3 WWE shows. I went to the Raw before WrestleMania, where there were almost no matches, so nothing from my list is on that. And we saw AEW live and in person in Charleston, West Virginia, AEW Dynamite. So one of the matches was definitely on that. I thought Daniel Garcia and Bryan Danielson and the 2 out of 3 Falls match was an all-timer. Like, I thought that was great, especially to be there and to be a part of it and to follow along in that story. I think those guys, and I can't wait to see what we see from Daniel Garcia going forward. Over in Ashland, Kentucky, I actually saw a tag team match where some local favorites, Chance Prophet and Misery, ended up taking on Eric Redbeard and PCO. And that was not the match that was promoted. And as a matter of fact, they opened a garage door in the venue and a hearse backed in. And I swear to God, you guys, it started snowing like halfway through the show. So snow is blowing in and PCO got out of the back of the hearse and became Eric Redbeard's tag team partner. It was just wonderful to watch. The crowd is going PCO, PCO, and the snow blowing in was better special effects than this company could have ever afforded, for sure. And so that was a wonderful moment to witness live. It had the whole room involved, a great match, and Eric Redbeard and PCO working together was a great tag team. We were all there when FTR took on the Wolves in Beckley.
Oh, shit.
And we spent a lot of time talking about FTR. Man. We don't have to spend too much time on it. But, man, we were all there for a classic at All-Star Wrestling at the Bash in Beckley, too. Shout out to All-Star Wrestling and Stephen P. New for making that happen, man. It wouldn't have happened without Stephen P. And so we were all blessed to see that match up close and in person. And the other one I was going to throw out there was just recently at the Holiday Live Tour, I got to see Gunther versus Shinsuke Nakamura, and they opened that match. They opened that card with a near 30-minute match. I mean, it was a long match to start the show, and they beat the crap out of each other. Gunther is putting himself over. There is no resisting it. If you see him live and in person, it was wonderful. And so that would go on my list of honorable mentions.
So are you saying that the Nick Gage versus George South match wasn't in your top faves of this year? You turncoat motherfucker. We're at WrestleCade, and dude, like, Adam Harris is the nicest human being that's ever existed. I've known him for like almost 20 years. He's one of my dearest friends, and he's just a sweetheart. Adam Harris, you could give him fucking $200,000. You could come back in a year and every fucking penny would be there. But Adam Harris, we were at WrestleCade, which is one of the greatest weekends of any wrestling fan you could ever have. One day, brother Derek Jones is going to fucking go there. What we're going to do is we're just going to come and kidnap your ass, and just Walmart's just going to have to deal with it.
If we put a mask on him, no one will ever know it's him.
Won't even know. But Adam Harris went and watched Nick Gage and George South in a hardcore match. Tell us, Adam Harris, how great that match was.
It was wonderful. I made you watch it.
He did. He came back to our room, Stephen P. New, and he made me watch
highlights together so that Steve Barker had to watch it.
And then I made Steve New watch it. I sent him,
yes.
Like, motherfucker,
Barker's like, if I've got to watch this, so do you. Here,
I couldn't pick just one match from WrestleCade, and while I wouldn't say that was one of my favorites or even the best match of 2022, I could put it in a category more like most memorable, maybe.
Fair enough. Okay, fair enough.
So let's wrap this up.
Before we do, Derek Jones has a few more matches.
Yeah, he's got
because, of course, he's fucking the curve
As we wrap it up, I want to hear Derek. He picked out a few pay-per-views that every wrestling fan needs to watch in from 2022. Derek.
So before you went on, I had 3 matches that I wanted to talk about, but one of them you've already touched on. It is on my list. It was FTR versus the Wolves in Beckley, West Virginia.
David Richards, you were at that match, for the record.
Don't ask Davey Richards, but there were eyewitnesses.
Yeah. As a tag team purist fan, that is tag team wrestling at its finest.
Yeah.
If you're not familiar with the Wolves, go back and watch them in Ring of Honor. If you're not familiar with FTR, go watch them somewhere. And then imagine watching these two teams just beat the tar out of each other. It's fantastic. Loved it. You talked about Seth and Cody at WrestleMania, but I got Seth and Cody at Hell in a Cell. That was my other match.
Yeah.
And then Barker told me at the beginning, he said, you better have a match that none of us have talked about and probably none of us have watched. Well, I probably do have one on here, and it's another FTR match, to be honest. It was the year of FTR in 2022, but it's FTR versus the Aussie Open at Royal Quest, a New Japan event. Aussie Open is the guys rolling around with Will Ospreay, in case you don't know. Okay.
Yep.
I'm proud of you, Barker. I'm glad you know that. But those individuals put on just one of the best tag team wrestling matches probably in the last decade. Go watch it if you haven't seen it. It's fantastic.
And what was that on? What event was that?
A Royal Quest 2 maybe, but it just Royal Quest for this year. You could find it on New Japan Live.
Was this for the belts? Is this when they won the NJPW belts?
IWGP.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very nice. So everybody can Google that now and find out.
Daily Motion. Don't YouTube. Daily Motion
Daily
is the
Motion.
best for finding, because Daily Motion is a European company and they're not as rough on copyright as YouTube is. So when you're looking for stuff like this, Daily Motion is your go-to.
Definitely. Some of my favorite Steiner Brothers matches are on Daily Motion.
Yeah.
So Derek, the pay-per-views that everybody should watch, was that one of them?
No. 3, just that match, but 3 pay-per-views of the year. 1 for Impact, 1 for AEW, 1 for WWE.
Okay.
WWE pay-per-view of the year, in my opinion, was absolutely Hell in a Cell from start to finish. That is the most solid card they put on all year long. They had good matches throughout, but if you want a good show from start to finish, Hell in a Cell for WWE was absolutely their best pay-per-view. AEW, we've talked about a couple matches from there and a couple instances from there, and it's Revolution. I was there live. It has my coolest moment of the year, watching Sting jump out of the stands through a stack of tables onto Andrade.
Is that Memorial Day weekend, Derek?
Yes.
Yep, that's it.
That's got the Punk and MJF dog collar match. It had the triple threat tag team match with the Bucks and Luchasaurus, Jungle Boy, and Red Dragon. They had an absolute fantastic match.
Holy shit.
And Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy in a great match. Get real. That's never going to happen.
Well, and we didn't know how short the Red Dragon era was going to be either in AEW.
Right,
so
exactly.
Another gem that we had this year, we won't probably get again.
Yes. And then Impact put on Impact Emergence. Man, that if you're not an Impact Wrestling fan, go watch that. It might change your mind. You have Jordan Grace and Mia Yim. You have the Honor No More Club versus Bullet Club 2.0. You have Eric Young and Diener versus Kushida and Chris Sabin instead of Kushida and Shelley, the time splitters, because later on you'll see Alex Shelley versus Josh Alexander, which was absolutely fantastic. You have Mike Bailey, who had probably the best year of his life versus Jack Evans, Sami Callihan, and Steve Malcolm. The card was just loaded. If you're not an Impact Wrestling fan of the new era of Impact Wrestling, watch this pay-per-view. It might change your mind.
I watched a few Impact events this year. This is not one of them, Derek. So I'm anxious to go back and watch this. This took place in August of 2022, and good for you for pointing out some Impact. Jordan Grace had another wonderful year. I mean, we didn't even go into the ladies in our lists. I had a few favorite. I think Hell in the Cell. There was an awesome ladies match there that may have been Bianca and
had the triple
Becky.
threat.
Oh, okay. There we go.
And Oscar was in it. Oscar,
there we
Becky,
go.
Bianca.
There we go. You're right. That was a barn burner pay-per-view for sure. So more good advice from the residents here in the House of Kayfabe. Derek Jones, wonderful work. As always, you did your homework. Extra credit and a gold star. And of course, Stephen P. New, the one who's going to just make sure we bankroll that gold star for Derek Jones and the man who makes it all happen here in the House of Kayfabe, and the other Steve Barker, the junk drummer on TV. Check him out on YouTube. My name is Adam Harris. Wonderful to be with you here on the House of Kayfabe. Be sure to like and subscribe, and happy 2023. Check out our other videos, including our take on the top news stories of 2022 and our memoriam post as well. For everybody here in the House of Kayfabe, signing off.